Before the arrival of modern industry or complex geopolitical borders, every human culture shared a singular, undeniable reality: our total dependence on the Earth. This segment explores the fundamental idea that the planet is the primary common ground for all human belief systems. In the earliest stages of human history, the land was rarely viewed as a commodity to be bought, sold, or exhausted for profit. Instead, it was treated as a sacred trust, a heritage passed down from ancestors to be protected for those yet to be born. This sense of sacred geography meant that a forest, a mountain, or a river wasn't just a resource. It was a living entity that demanded respect and careful management. By looking at these ancient perspectives, we see that environmental protection isn't a modern political trend, but a return to an ancient spiritual duty that once unified all of humanity. This universal sense of heritage established a moral contract between humans and the natural world. Whether it was the year of Jubilee in ancient Hebrew law that allowed the land to rest and recover, or the sacred groves protected by communities in India and Africa, the goal was the same: sustainability through spiritual discipline. These cultures understood that if you break the health of the land, you break the health of the people. This section sets the stage by proving that our current ecological crisis is, at its root, a spiritual crisis, a disconnection from the shared heritage that once taught us how to live within our means. By reclaiming this view of the Earth as a shared heritage, we find a powerful, non-partisan motivation to act. We are not just saving the planet for ourselves, we are honoring a trust that has been placed in our hands by every generation that came before us, ensuring that the primary gift of life remains intact for the future. When we examine the teachings of Jesus, we find a man who was deeply immersed in the rhythms of the natural world. He didn't teach in closed cathedrals, he taught on hillsides, from fishing boats, and in olive groves. This segment looks at how he used the lilies of the field and the birds of the air, not just as simple metaphors but as examples of how humanity should trust in and respect the divine order of nature. By pointing to the beauty of a wildflower as something superior to the wealth of a king, Jesus was inviting his followers to reconnect with the intrinsic value of the creation around them. This is a theology of connection rather than exploitation. It suggests that the natural world has its own worth and dignity, independent of what humans can extract from it for a profit. This focus on the small things of nature, the mustard seed, the vine, the yeast, shows a profound respect for the biological processes that sustain life. Jesus often modeled a lifestyle of simplicity and directness, which stands in sharp contrast to the modern culture of overconsumption that is currently driving ecological collapse. In his view, the Earth was not a dark place to be escaped, but a creation that reflected the care and intent of the divine. This section highlights that being a follower of these principles requires a commitment to stewardship. If we claim to value the Creator, we must, by necessity, protect the work of the Creator. This moves environmental action from being a secular hobby to being a central spiritual obligation. By protecting a forest or cleaning a stream, we are practicing a form of active love for the world that Jesus cherished, proving that a true universal faith must be an ecological faith that seeks to heal the rift between humanity and the rest of the living world. In the late 20th century, the Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh introduced a powerful concept known as interbeing to describe the fundamental reality of our existence. This segment explores the idea that nothing can exist by itself. Everything must interbe with everything else. To understand a simple piece of paper, you must see the forest it came from, the rain that watered the trees, the sunshine that allowed them to grow, and even the logger who cut the wood. If any of those elements were missing, the paper would not exist. This logic provides a profound spiritual basis for environmentalism. It suggests that the environment is not something outside of us, it is us. Since we are made of non-human elements like water, air, and soil, harming the environment is literally an act of self-harm. When we pollute a river, we are polluting our own blood. When we clear-cut a forest, we are damaging our own lungs. This shift in perspective moves green, living from a political choice to a logical necessity for survival. The practice of interbeing teaches us that mindfulness must extend to how we consume and discard resources. If we recognize that the cloud is in our tea and the earth is in our bread, we naturally begin to treat the natural world with the same care and respect we give to our own bodies. This Buddhist ecology is not based on fear or guilt, but on a deep, enlightened awareness of the truth of connection. It mirrors the universal faith mission of Jesus by emphasizing that love for the other must include love for the non-human world. By living with the realization of interbeing, we can dismantle the illusion of separation that drives modern waste and exploitation, replacing it with a lifestyle of deep respect and sustainable action that honors the intricate web of life. In the Islamic tradition, the relationship between humanity and nature is defined by the concept of Khalifa, which translates to steward or trustee. This segment explores the idea that humans were not created to be masters of the earth, but its temporary guardians. According to this view, the earth is a sacred trust, an amana, given by the divine to be managed with justice and wisdom. Central to this duty is the protection of mizan, or the balance of nature. The universe was created in a state of perfect equilibrium, and the primary responsibility of the Khalifa is to ensure that human activity does not disrupt this balance. This provides a clear religious mandate for the sustainable use of resources. To take more than we need or to waste what we have been given is a violation of the trust placed in our hands. This Islamic framework for stewardship is highly practical. It forbids the wasteful consumption of water, even if one is at the side of a flowing river, and emphasizes the planting of trees as an act of ongoing charity. It teaches that the natural world is a series of ayats, or signs, that point to a higher truth, meaning that destroying a species or a landscape is equivalent to tearing a page out of a sacred book. By viewing environmental protection as a form of worship and a legal duty, the concept of the Khalifa offers a powerful tool for modern conservation. It shifts the motivation for ecological action from a secular obligation to a spiritual covenant. When we act as true stewards, we are fulfilling a global responsibility to maintain the mizan, ensuring that the earth remains a healthy and balanced home for all creatures, proving that faith and sustainability are inseparable in the pursuit of a just world. Long before modern science began to warn us about the limits of our planet, indigenous faiths across the globe were practicing a deep ecology based on the view of the earth as a living mother. This segment highlights the profound insights of cultures that have lived in harmony with their ecosystems for thousands of years. Central to many of these traditions, such as the Haudenosaunee Iroquois Confederacy, is the 7 generations principle. This rule dictates that any major decision made today, whether it involves land use, water rights, or community growth, must be evaluated based on how it will affect the people living 7 generations from now, roughly 140 years into the future. This is a radical departure from the short-term thinking of modern politics and quarterly corporate earnings. It is a commitment to a legacy of health and abundance rather than immediate profit. Indigenous wisdom teaches that we do not own the land, we are merely borrowing it from our children. This perspective creates a relationship of profound humility and reciprocity. If you take a fish from the lake or a tree from the forest, you must give something back or ensure that the source can replenish itself. This is not just a romantic sentiment, it is a sophisticated system of resource management that has allowed indigenous communities to thrive in diverse environments without destroying them. This section explores how these ancient insights provide a blueprint for our modern survival. By adopting the mindset of the 7 generations, we can begin to heal the rift between our industrial needs and our biological reality. It reminds us that our greatest responsibility is to leave behind a world that is as vibrant and life-sustaining as the one we inherited, proving that the most advanced way to live is often the one that respects the oldest laws of the land. Across the globe, we are witnessing a powerful shift where traditional religious rituals are being transformed into acts of active prayer for the environment. This segment explores practical, modern examples of faith-based conservation, where communities are putting their spiritual values into the soil. In India, religious groups are working to clean sacred rivers like the Ganges, treating the removal of waste as a form of purification for the soul of the nation. In Ethiopia, the Orthodox Tewahedo Church has preserved hundreds of church forests, small islands of primary forest surrounding places of worship that stand in sharp contrast to the surrounding deforested land. These communities view the preservation of these trees not just as an ecological task, but as a sacred duty to protect the beauty of creation. These examples show that when faith is applied to conservation, it provides a level of dedication and long-term commitment that secular movements often struggle to maintain. This movement from ritual to restoration is happening in every tradition. We see it in green Ramadans where mosques reduce plastic waste, and in Christian eco-reformation projects where church lands are turned into community gardens and wildlife habitats. By framing environmental work as a religious obligation, these groups are mobilizing millions of people who might not otherwise identify as environmentalists. This section highlights that the most effective way to protect the planet is to tap into the deep-seated values that already exist within our cultures. When a community treats a forest as a temple or a river as a living being, the motivation to protect it becomes unbreakable. This active prayer proves that spiritual health and ecological health are two sides of the same coin. By restoring the land, we are simultaneously restoring our own sense of purpose and connection to the world around us. As we conclude this exploration of the sacred garden, it is clear that saving our environment is the ultimate universal faith project for the modern age. This is the moment for a new covenant with the planet, a shared commitment that transcends our individual dogmas to protect the one thing we all hold in common, the breath of life. True influence in the 21st century is not found in how much we can build or consume, but in how much we can preserve. Throughout this series, we have seen that the teachings of Jesus, the insights of the East, and the wisdom of indigenous peoples all point to the same truth. We are stewards, not owners. Our highest values are not meant to be kept in a book or a building. They are meant to be expressed through the direct action of protecting the vulnerable, which today includes the very ecosystems that sustain us. This conclusion encourages every viewer to see ecological action as a primary expression of their faith and character. Every tree planted, every gallon of water saved, and every choice to live more simply is a vote for the future of humanity. We have the blueprint, the motivation, and the shared spiritual heritage necessary to turn the tide of ecological collapse. The legacy we leave behind will not be measured by our economic growth, but by the health of the air our grandchildren breathe and the vitality of the soil they walk upon. By building a civilization of empathy and a culture of stewardship, we fulfill our highest potential as a species. This is our shared mission, to act with the urgency of a crisis and the patience of a gardener, ensuring that the earth remains a sacred living home for all generations to come.